Hi, and welcome to this episode of John's Motorcycle Rescue and Review. In this episode, I am reviewing Suzuki's 1982 GS650 G. If you like classic bikes from the 1970s and 1980s, go ahead and hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'm always featuring lots of great classic bike content on this channel. The Suzuki GS650 G was introduced in 1981, and it was based heavily on their GS550 motorcycle. It has a 650cc 8-valve motor. It's an inline 4-cylinder motor. This particular motor is a plain bearing motor. Suzuki took the GS550 motor and they actually bored it out. So this is a bored out 550 motor. It's got awesome power throughout the rev range, very nice mid-range on this bike. It was the quickest bike, 40 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour in top gear roll-on of its time. The GS650G ran a 12.91 second quarter mile at just over 101 miles an hour in testing by Cycle World magazine in 1981. The only motorcycle in this class to beat the GS650G in the quarter mile was the Yamaha Maxim, and it beat it by just a hair. Spec-wise, looking at the front of the bike, this bike has big dual disc brakes. Those are operated on by big single piston calipers. This bike also has air suspension up front. Currently, I'm running about 12 psi in the front of this bike. I have gone in and added a 1/2-inch spacer inside the top of each fork leg, and that actually helps the bike not dive so much under braking. The Suzuki has awesome instrumentation. It has a big speedometer. It also has a big tachometer that's easily visible, and it has a fuel gauge, and it has a gear indicator. That was really comprehensive instrumentation for the time, and it's still impressive today. Very, very nice. This Suzuki has a large fuel tank on it. In Cycle World testing in 1981, this bike averaged right around 60 miles per gallon. The GS650G is running constant velocity carbs. I really like those. Those carburate very well, and they're very efficient carburetors. It also features electronic ignition, so you don't have the points type. That's also more reliable. And really, if you're looking for a first classic bike, these are some features that are really nice, and you don't have to deal with some of the headache of the classic bikes from maybe the 70s. To me, the early 80s were really the best era for the air-cooled 4-cylinder bikes, and you just got really nice features. You got the mag wheels, the dual disc brakes, and those are fantastic. Another thing that they really updated in the early 80s, the handling on this bike is stellar. It's amazing. But we'll check that out when we get out on the road here in a little bit. This bike has a slick shifting 5-speed transmission in it. It shifts very nicely. The ergonomics on this bike are all-day comfortable. You sit upright. It's not super sporty with the bend of the bars, but it's just very neutral seating position. The seat on this bike is comfortable, it's wide, it's supportive, and it allows you a little bit of fore and aft room. It also has a nice passenger pad if you want to take a passenger along. At the rear of the bike, there are conventional shock units, the dual units, and these feature a 5-way adjustable preload adjustment and a 4-way adjustable damping adjustment on there as well. The rear brake on this bike is a big single disc brake, and it is acted on by a large single piston caliper. The GS650G features a 4-into-2 exhaust system, and that is very typical of the time period. The GS650G also features a shaft final drive unit. The Suzuki shaft drive system is excellent in that it has minimal driveline lash and almost no shaft jacking on and off throttle. So it doesn't change your line mid-corner. In my mind, it's definitely the best functioning shaft drive system of all the bikes of the late 70s and early 80s. All right, enough talk. What is this bike like to ride out on the open road? I'm gonna grab my gear, I'll bring the camera along, let's find out together.
I am currently riding Suzuki's 1982 GS650G. I recently picked this bike up and I've been going through it to make it 100%. I've fully serviced the bike and I've gone over some of the cosmetics on it and really making it look nice. And I've just been getting to know the bike and putting some miles on it and just enjoying every minute of it. What a nice little machine. The ride on this bike is very comfortable. The seating position is very neutral. The suspension on this bike is on the plush side. And there is, especially in stock configuration, there's a good amount of fore and aft movement on the suspension when you get on the brakes and on the throttle. Anybody who's ridden one of Suzuki's GS line of motorcycles knows that that just comes with the territory. They were very good riding bikes, they were very good touring bikes, but even their E models, even the sporty models, were very, very plush in the suspension department, and this feels so familiar. The one thing I like about this bike is it feels smaller than my other G bikes, my 1100s, and I really like the nimbleness and the easy handling of this machine. Just effortless turn in. And serious performance on tap. That is nice. That pulls really, really cleanly and really hard. I recently reviewed Suzuki's GS650G, and compared to that bike, this is more of a, it's got a roomier cockpit on this bike. It's got the dual disc brakes up front, and it's got more mid-range power than the 550T did. This one just fits me a little bit better. Again, you can see the handling on the bike is awesome. That just goes around corners like it's on rails. Super nice. This isn't a bike that will pressure you to go fast, but it is a bike that really, whatever the riding situation calls for, it delivers. I put a 1/2-inch spacer in the fork tubes, in the top of the fork tubes on these springs, and that really helps the bike not dive so much under braking, and it really doesn't sacrifice the ride. This is still a nice riding bike. The transmission on this bike is a very slick shifting 5-speed transmission. It goes up through the gears precisely. It's not a high effort unit, and it's very much like the other Suzuki transmissions that I've driven. Very nice. I love the fuel gauge on this bike and the gear indicator. Those are really nice to have. And this is definitely the kind of bike, when I get on it and I'm riding it, it just makes me want to get out and put more miles on and go exploring, maybe hit some really tight, twisty mountain roads, and just enjoy that nice, easy handling. I'm surprised also at how well this handles, given the fact that I don't have lower bars on this. These are the stock bars, but I still have so much confidence in the corners, and it just rolls in easily from side to side. Everything just works great. The dual disc brakes function awesome, and this would make a great first classic bike for somebody looking to get into the classic bikes. Suzuki has such a good reputation for building quality products, especially in this era of motorcycles. They were really on top of their game. This motor is an over-square motor, meaning that the bore of the pistons is wider than the stroke of the piston is up and down. And I was kind of surprised that Suzuki chose to bore this motor out, the 550 motor, to make this motor. instead of making the stroke longer, but it really gives it a revvy nature, and it really pulls very nicely, really from any RPM range, and especially once you get it up above about 4,000 RPM, it really comes on nicely. I actually think this would give some of my bigger bikes a run for their money on a tight back road, and I'm really surprised that even though this is only a 650, how much mid-range it has. It really does pull nicely. This bike is revving right around 4,500 RPM at 60 miles an hour. And when you get on it at this speed, passing power at this speed is really nice. You don't have to downshift. Picks up cleanly in the mid-range and just pulls all the way to redline. Styling-wise, I think this is a really handsome bike. I think it captures a very similar look to the original GS650G. I really like the way that bike was styled. It's just very simple. This kind of classic UJM, Universal Japanese motorcycle. All in all, this is just such a nice bike to ride. It's got great suspension. It's got great handling. It's got an eager motor. It's got nice mid-range, even though it's a 650cc bike. It's got an excellent transmission. It's very comfortable. The brakes are great. And overall, it's just a very well-balanced package that Suzuki did so well during this time period. Good job, Suzuki.
Man, what a lot of fun. I recently had the opportunity to drive Suzuki's original GS650E, and I really like that bike. I like the small size, I like the confidence-inspiring handling, and I like the adequate engine performance that it had. It was really a nice all-around package. Everything functioned well together, and I could immediately see why that bike was so popular. To me, Suzuki has really captured the flavor of the original GS750E in this bike. Additionally, the GS650G has a lot of cool features that the GS750E did not have originally. And that includes the CV carbs, the electronic ignition, and the shaft drive. Fortunately, the shaft drive does not hamper the handling on this bike. And if you were riding it and somebody asked you to tell from the seat of the pants feel if it was chain drive or shaft drive, there's really no difference in feel. This bike feels great, it handles superbly well, and it's just very confidence inspiring, very well balanced all around. It doesn't do anything offensive. It's a nice place to be, and when you want to wick it up, man, it has a lot of performance on tap. The small size of the bike really contributes to the light feel and the excellent handling on the machine. I think Suzuki did such a good job with their GS650G. The mechanicals on the bike are simple and robust. It has really nice brakes on it. It has decent range. The instrumentation is best in class. The handling is best in class. It's a very comfortable bike, a very confidence-inspiring bike, and it honestly has some pretty nice features on it that you wouldn't expect on a bike in this size range and price range. All right, if there are any GS650G fans out there, please feel free to comment in the comment section below. As always, I hope you found this video entertaining and informative, and until next time, enjoy the ride.